All right, let's dive in. We're looking at critical thinking and interdisciplinary learning today.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and we've got all sorts of stuff to go through. Academic study guides,
Right.
briefing documents, and even some quiz answer keys. Looks like someone was really trying to hit these concepts hard.
Yeah, someone was studying up for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to break down the key ideas for you and see how they apply to, well, your life, basically, so you can think better and learn better.
Exactly. Equip you with the tools for success.
Exactly. All right. So one of the sources said, and I quote, "Critical thinking isn't about being critical," which I thought was kind of interesting. What do you think about that? How do we unpack that? Because it seems a little contradictory.
It does. It does a bit. I
Okay.
think what it's trying to get at is the difference between critical thinking as a process as opposed to just like a negative attitude.
Oh, okay.
So, it's about stepping back, asking the right questions, evaluating the evidence,
Mm-hmm.
and, coming to your own conclusions. Not
Yeah.
necessarily just like, being a contrarian.
Right. So not being a nitpicker.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But really being thoughtful, discerning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you probably already engage in critical thinking more than you realize.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're trying to get ready for a presentation, if you're making a tough decision, you're having to look at different perspectives,
Yeah.
trying to weigh things,
Yeah. And
see the whole picture.
the source applying analysis steps
Yeah.
even has this 6-step framework
Oh, nice.
to approach problems.
Tell me about it.
So it starts with observation,
Mm-hmm.
noticing a recurring problem. So maybe your team at work keeps missing deadlines
Right.
because of bottlenecks in production.
Mm-hmm.
Or your study group can never find a time to meet that works for everybody.
Oh, the worst.
Right. You observe the pattern,
Yeah.
and then you move to analysis,
Oh.
digging deeper to understand the root causes. Like, is it a communication issue? Is it a lack of resources? Or is it something else entirely?
So moving past just like complaining about it,
Right.
but actually figuring out why it's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the framework goes on with suggestion,
Okay.
brainstorming, potential solutions, prediction, thinking through the possible consequences,
Mm-hmm.
testing, trying things out, gathering data,
Okay.
and then finally implementation, putting the solution into action.
But it's not just a one-time thing.
No, you have to
Well-
keep evaluating, keep refining,
Yeah.
keep monitoring how things are working,
Yeah.
make adjustments as needed, and constantly strive for improvement.
So it's like this iterative process.
Exactly.
That's really cool. Like it really is a superpower you can apply anywhere.
Absolutely.
I like that. Okay, let's talk about interdisciplinary learning. So one of the sources pointed out how interdisciplinary has kind of become a buzzword these days.
I've noticed that.
You see it everywhere. Interdisciplinary programs,
Yeah.
interdisciplinary this, interdisciplinary that.
Mhm.
So is it just a trend or is there something more to it?
I think there is something more to it. I think it's reflecting a growing awareness that real-world problems just don't fit neatly into those little academic boxes
Right.
that we call disciplines. If you think about it,
Yeah.
the world is complex and interconnected. To really understand it, you got to break down those walls.
Okay, so you're saying we need to make connections between things.
Absolutely. You can't just look at things in isolation.
Right.
You got to see how they all fit together.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the benefits? Like, why should we actually care about interdisciplinary learning? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, the sources highlight several advantages. And first of all, it leads to a deeper understanding. So instead of just memorizing isolated facts, you start to see the connections between things.
Yeah.
You develop a more comprehensive and nuanced perspective.
It's like seeing the whole puzzle instead of just one piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's enhanced problem solving.
Yeah.
Like we were saying before, real-world problems are messy. They're multifaceted. They often require drawing on tools and insights from multiple disciplines
Right.
to come up with effective solutions.
Yeah, because you're not working in a silo.
Exactly.
You need to be able to collaborate.
Exactly. And interdisciplinary learning helps you build those collaboration and communication skills.
Okay.
You learn to work effectively with people from diverse backgrounds,
Yeah.
different ways of thinking, different approaches to challenges.
So it's not just about what you know.
Right.
It's about how you learn and work with others.
Precisely.
Okay.
And perhaps most importantly, interdisciplinary learning fosters adaptability and lifelong learning.
Okay, that's a big one.
In a world that's changing so rapidly, the ability to learn how to learn is key.
It's huge.
It's your superpower.
Yeah, it's not about what you know now. It's about your ability to keep learning as things change.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, here's something I thought was super interesting. One of the sources said that humanities graduates might actually have an advantage in the job market over STEM graduates.
Now, that seems counterintuitive in today's world, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, everyone's talking about technology and STEM fields.
It does. It does. And I think it speaks to this broader value of a liberal arts education,
Okay.
which is often underestimated.
Yeah, people are always saying, like, oh, what do you do with a philosophy degree and things like that.
Exactly.
So what is it about a liberal arts education that's so valuable?
Well, it's not just about job training. It's about developing the whole person, cultivating those critical thinking skills, communication skills, adaptability,
Right.
empathy, creativity, all these qualities that are essential for navigating a complex world.
So it's like nurturing those human skills
Exactly.
that make us uniquely human.
Yeah, and those skills become even more valuable as technology advances because machines are great at following instructions, but they're not so good at those things that make us human.
Right. Okay, so speaking of technology, some of the sources also brought up AI and the ethics surrounding AI.
How do you think the liberal arts can help us with that? How do we make sure AI is developed and used responsibly?
Well, if you think about it, a solid understanding of history, philosophy, ethics, those provide the framework for making responsible choices
Okay.
about how we develop and use technology, because technology is a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but it's ultimately up to us
Yeah.
to use it ethically and for the betterment of humanity.
So it's not just about the technical aspects, it's about the human values
Yes.
that drive its development.
Right.
Okay, so now let's talk about putting all this into practice.
Sure.
We've talked about critical thinking, interdisciplinary learning, the value of the liberal arts.
Right.
But how do we actually use all this stuff in our own lives? Give me the goods. What are some practical takeaways that our listeners can start using today?
I'm happy to share some. The sources offer some really cool tools and technique that you can incorporate into your daily life. One that stood out to me was the close reading interpretive tool, or CRIT for short.
Okay, CRT. What is that?
It's a step-by-step method for deeply analyzing texts.
Texts like books and articles.
Yes, but not just those. You can apply it to any type of information. Emails, news reports,
Oh, wow.
even social media posts.
Okay.
It's about really understanding the author's message, the nuances of the language, the underlying assumptions.
So like being a detective.
Exactly.
Looking for clues.
Exactly.
I like that.
So the first step is paraphrasing. You summarize the text in your own words to make sure you understand the literal meaning.
Okay.
Then you move to observation, noticing things like word choice, imagery, tone. What stylistic choices are the author making?
Yeah.
And how do those choices contribute to their overall message?
Like, what are they trying to say?
Right. And then you contextualize the text.
Okay.
You consider the historical, cultural, or social background
Right.
to understand the author's perspective and any potential biases.
Because everything's written from a certain point of view.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then comes analysis, connecting your observations to the context
Okay.
and drawing conclusions. So, what is the author's main argument? What evidence do they use to support it? What are the strengths and weaknesses of their reasoning?
So this is where the critical thinking kicks in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then you argue.
Argue.
You present your own interpretation of the text,
Okay.
supported by evidence from your analysis.
So you're not just passively reading.
No, you're actively engaging,
Yeah.
questioning it, forming your own conclusions.
Yeah.
And the final step is reflection. You step back and consider the limitations of your interpretation.
Okay.
Are there other perspectives you haven't considered? What questions remain unanswered?
Yeah, so you're acknowledging that you don't have all the answers
Right.
and that there's always more to learn.
Exactly.
I like that. So this whole crit process helps you to be a more active reader.
Right.
Which is really important in our world because we're just bombarded with information all the time.
We are. And another simple but powerful technique that the sources mention is taking marginal notes.
Oh, writing in the margins.
Yes.
My teachers used to yell at me for that.
But in this context, it's actually encouraged.
Really?
It's about having a conversation with the author,
Yeah.
jotting down your thoughts and questions,
Okay.
connections as you read.
I can see how that would help you remember things better.
Absolutely.
What kind of notes should you take?
Well, it depends on the text and your purpose, You might summarize key points, highlight interesting quotes, connect ideas to other things you've learned,
Okay.
or even just record your emotional reactions to what you're reading.
So it's like creating your own study guide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This active reading strategy can make a huge difference in how much you actually absorb and retain from the material.
Wow. Okay, what about ethical dilemmas?
Yeah.
Because we all face those
Me too.
at some point in our lives.
And there are different approaches to ethical decision-making. One framework that's outlined in Global Ethics Solutions focuses on two types of dilemmas.
Okay.
Situational dilemmas, which arise from our own sort of internal struggles,
Okay.
and then not-so-situational dilemmas, which are often more complex and require more deliberate analysis.
So, like, if you're tempted to sneak an extra cookie from the break room,
Yes, exactly.
that's a situational dilemma.
You know it's wrong,
Yeah.
but you're rationalizing it in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's say you witness a colleague behaving unethically. That's a different
That's a whole other thing.
level of complexity.
Yeah. And then there's the Markula Center framework, right?
Right.
They have those 6 ethical lenses, which
Yeah.
I think is really cool. So there's the rights lens, the justice lens, the utilitarian lens, the common good lens, the virtue lens, and, what's the last one?
The care ethics lens.
The care ethics lens, that's right.
And each one kind of gives you a different perspective for evaluating actions,
Yeah.
weighing potential consequences.
So it helps you to navigate those gray areas. Yeah.
It does. It does. It provides structure and guidance.
Yeah. Where there's no easy answer.
Right.
And the goal is to make ethical choices that align with your values.
Exactly.
Okay, so all these skills that we've talked about, they're not just for academics.
No, they're for everyone.
Whether you're a student or you're working or just, living your life, you can use this stuff
Absolutely.
to be more effective thinker and learner.
Right.
All right. One of the sources talked about Plato's allegory of the cave,
Oh, yes.
which I always thought was fascinating. It's about these prisoners who live their whole lives chained in a cave,
Right.
only able to see shadows on the wall, and they think those shadows are reality.
It's a powerful metaphor for how our perceptions can be limited
Total.
by our experiences.
Right. And education, the way Plato sees it, is the journey out of the cave into the light of true understanding.
Right, into the light.
But the thing is, we all have our own caves in a way.
We do.
Right? Like our own limiting beliefs and assumptions. So the question is, what shadows are we mistaking for reality?
That is the question.
Right. What assumptions do we need to question?
Absolutely.
That's a big one, I think, to think about.
It is. It can be challenging, but also incredibly liberating to really examine your beliefs.
Yeah, to step outside of your comfort zone.
Because out there, beyond those shadows, there's a whole world of knowledge and understanding waiting to be discovered.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. It is, yeah. And that's where the real learning begins, right?
It is when you start questioning your assumptions
Exactly.
and seeking out new perspectives. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground. I mean, we've talked about problem solving. We've talked about the liberal arts. I'm already feeling smarter just from this conversation.
And I think it's important to emphasize that these skills aren't just for, like intellectual pursuits or whatever.
Right.
You can really, this stuff can enrich your life.
Yeah, I like that.
In so many different ways.
Yeah, give me an example.
So let's say you're thinking about changing careers.
Okay.
Those critical thinking skills that we've been talking about can help you to evaluate your options.
Right.
Assess your strengths and weaknesses, and ultimately make a more informed decision.
So instead of just like jumping into something, you're actually thinking about it carefully.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Or maybe you're passionate about a particular social issue, like climate change or income inequality.
Okay.
Interdisciplinary learning can help you understand those issues from multiple angles.
Yeah.
The science, the economics, the social implications, the political implications.
Yeah, you get a much broader perspective.
Exactly. And then you can engage in those conversations.
Yeah.
Advocate for change, maybe contribute to solutions in a more informed way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And let's not forget the power of the liberal arts to cultivate, empathy.
Right.
And understanding, which in today's world, which often feels so divided.
Totally.
Those qualities are more important than ever.
Absolutely. One of the sources talked about Aristotle's idea of happiness.
Yes.
Eudaimonia.
Right.
It's not just about fleeting pleasure. It's about living a life of purpose and virtue.
Yeah. living well
Yeah.
by doing good.
I like that. And I think all the things that we're talking about today, all these tools and concepts can really help people to do that,
They can.
to actually live a life that is meaningful and fulfilling.
Yeah, flourishing.
Flourishing, that's the word. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about AI a little bit more.
Okay.
Because we touched on it earlier, but it's such a big topic.
It is.
And, it's changing so rapidly. So how do these concepts, critical thinking, interdisciplinary learning, how do they prepare us for this age of AI?
I think that's a crucial question.
Yeah.
And first of all, we need to be critical consumers of information about AI because there's a lot of hype.
Yeah.
A lot of speculation.
A lot of fear-mongering.
A lot of fear, yeah. So we need to be able to sift through all that noise.
Right.
Separate fact from fiction.
Yeah.
And evaluate claims.
Yeah.
So
not just get caught up in the hype.
Yeah, don't believe everything you read.
Or the fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think for yourself.
Okay, I like that.
And interdisciplinary learning is really important here as well.
Okay.
Because AI isn't just a technological issue.
Right.
It has profound implications for, every aspect of our lives.
Right.
Our work, our relationships, our understanding of what it means to be human.
Wow, that's a big one.
It is. It is.
When you put it like that, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And so to navigate this new landscape, we need to draw on insights from
a lot of different areas.
A wide range of fields. Not just computer science, but psychology, sociology, ethics, philosophy.
Yeah. So it's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about its impact.
Its impact on human society. Yeah, on the human experience.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think one of the sources even mentioned how AI can actually be used to detect bias.
Oh, really?
Which I thought was fascinating.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So there are algorithms being developed that can analyze language and identify potential biases.
Wow.
Even those that we might not be consciously aware of.
So it's like AI can help us to see our own blind spots.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it highlights the potential for technology to be used for good, to promote fairness and equity.
Yeah, but of course, there's also the concern that AI could perpetuate existing biases.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, if the data that's used to train these systems is biased, then the results will be biased as well.
Exactly. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to have those ethical frameworks, those critical thinking skills in place.
Yeah.
We need to be asking tough questions about how these systems are being developed, who's making the decisions, what safeguards are in place to ensure fairness and accountability.
So again, it comes back to human values.
Exactly.
Guiding those decisions.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about human flourishing in the age of AI.
Okay.
What does that mean?
What does it mean to flourish in this world?
Yeah, what does it look like?
Yeah. Where technology is so advanced, I think it means cultivating those qualities that make us uniquely human.
Okay.
Our creativity, our empathy, our critical thinking skills, our ability to connect with each other on a deeper level.
So it's not about being afraid of technology. It's about embracing our humanity and using technology as a tool to enhance our lives.
Exactly. To create a better world.
I like that. Yeah. That's a positive spin on it.
And I think it also brings us back to this idea of the liberal arts education being more valuable than ever.
Okay, I see the connection. Tell me more.
Yeah, because a liberal arts education is all about developing those essential human qualities. It's about cultivating critical thinking, broadening our perspectives, understanding the complexities of the human experience.
Right.
All those things that are so essential for navigating this world. Yeah. That's becoming increasingly complex and interconnected.
Yeah, so it's not just about training for a specific job.
No, it's about preparing for a life.
It's about the bigger picture.
Yeah, of purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
A life of flourishing.
Flourishing, I like it. Okay. One of the sources talked about how a sense of shared identity and purpose, which they called national spirit, can actually influence corporate behavior.
That's an interesting point.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is.
And that study was specifically focused on Chinese companies. But I think the principle applies more broadly.
I think so, too.
When people feel a sense of shared identity, they're more likely to act in ways that benefit the collective good.
Yeah, it's not just about individual responsibility.
It's like social responsibility.
Social responsibility, exactly.
Yeah.
And that can happen at every level, from the individual to the community, to the corporation to the nation.
Yeah, we're all interconnected.
We are. Our actions have ripple effects.
They do. And the sources even suggested that companies with a strong commitment to social responsibility are less likely to engage in, like, unethical behavior.
Interesting.
Like manipulating stock prices, exploiting workers.
Right. So it's not just about doing good for the sake of doing good.
Yeah.
It's actually good for business.
Yeah.
In the long run.
It creates a more ethical and sustainable business environment.
It does.
Yeah, okay. You know, it's amazing how all these topics we've been talking about, critical thinking, interdisciplinary learning, the liberal arts, social responsibility, AI,
I know.
it all seems so connected.
It's all woven together.
It is.
Yeah. I think it all kind of points to this idea of human agency, our ability to shape our own destinies and create a better future,
Okay.
for ourselves.
Yeah. It's a message of hope
It is.
and empowerment.
Yeah.
Like we're not just passive bystanders.
Right.
We can actually make a difference.
We can. We have the power.
Both individually and collectively.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful message to hold on to as we navigate these complexities.
Totally. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
But before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to highlight? Any final words of wisdom for our listener?
I think I'd just encourage everyone to embrace the journey of lifelong learning.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world is full of fascinating questions and endless possibilities for discovery. So never stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Never stop exploring. And never stop challenging yourself to grow.
Curiosity is key.
It is.
Yeah, and the more you learn,
Yeah.
the more you realize how much you don't know.
Exactly.
Which just makes it more exciting.
Right? There's always more to discover,
Yeah.
more to understand, more to create.
Okay, I like that.
And the best part is this journey, of learning and growth,
Yeah.
it has no finish line.
Right.
It's a lifelong adventure.
It is a lifelong adventure. I love that. We've been talking about these moral dilemmas and ethical challenges, but one thing that strikes me is that, we're not alone in this.
That's a great point.
Right.
We're all in this together.
We are. Like, we don't have to figure it all out by ourselves.
And we often think of ethics as this, individual thing. But really, it's about how we relate to each other.
Yeah.
How we build a just and compassionate world together.
Right. Yeah, it's like we're all part of this bigger conversation about how to live ethically and responsibly. And one of the sources even used the phrase emerging world community.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Like the lines are getting blurry when it comes to what it means to be a good citizen.
Yeah, it's less about geography and more about a shared responsibility to create a just and compassionate world.
So it's not just about voting in your local elections or volunteering in your community.
Yeah, those are great.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than that.
Okay.
It's about being informed about global issues, advocating for policies that promote fairness and sustainability,
Right.
supporting organizations that are working to make a difference on a global scale.
Right. So it's about recognizing that our choices have an impact
beyond
just our immediate community.
Exactly. It can feel overwhelming, though, right?
It can, yeah.
To think about tackling these huge global issues.
It's like, where do you even start?
Right.
But one of the sources reminded me that even small actions can make a difference.
Absolutely. And it highlighted things like starting a petition, contacting your elected officials, supporting ethical businesses.
Okay.
Even just having thoughtful conversations with friends and family.
Right. So just starting those conversations.
Yeah, spreading awareness.
Yeah, raising awareness. Okay. And of course, before we can even take action, we have to be informed.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got to know what's going on.
Yeah, and be able to think critically about the information that's out there.
Exactly. Evaluate information, identify biases, form your own conclusions.
It all comes back to those critical thinking skills.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not just for academics.
They're for life.
They're for being an informed and engaged citizen of the world.
All right. One thing that really struck me was how the sources talked about the power of education. Not just in the sense of getting a degree or a job.
Yeah, it's more than that.
It's more about a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Of expanding your horizons, challenging your assumptions.
Right.
Becoming more aware of yourself.
Yeah, and the world around you.
And the world.
Yeah, going back to Plato's cave.
Yes.
It's about breaking free.
Breaking free from those chains.
Yeah.
And stepping into the light.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what would you say is the most important takeaway?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, for our listener.
I think I would encourage everyone to just embrace that journey of lifelong learning,
Yeah.
to never stop asking questions,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and to remember that you have the power to make a difference in the world.
I love that. So to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into critical thinking and interdisciplinary learning.
Yes, thank you.
And remember, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep making a difference.